Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week we're talking Animal Crossing. It's very topical because, like a month or so ago, we got a new Animal Crossing game. So Mike's going to take us back and discuss the origins and the history of our favorite animal creature game. What did you call it last week? Like a social simulation game?
It's a social simulation game. That's right. We're back at the intersection of anthropomorphic creatures, Animal Crossing.
All right.
It's called a social simulation game. So you're essentially the basics of Animal Crossing is you are a person moving as a stranger to a new town. You don't know anyone, and you slowly get to help build the town and meet your neighbors. And you do that with fun activities like bug collecting, fishing, gardening, and fossil digging, just to name like a couple. But all in all, it's a good time, which is actually exactly what the series creator, Katsuya Gucci, had in mind when he created this game. And the way this came up is actually really interesting, how Animal Crossing was formed. So a little background on Mr. Gucci, okay? Grew up in Chiba, Japan, and attended the computer graphics... he did the computer graphics course at Japan Electronics College, okay? And he graduated in 1986, and then he had a big decision to make, because I guess, and I hope I'm not perceiving this wrong, but this is how it was listed in the article I read. The article, by the way, is called The Inside Story of Animal Crossing, and it was published by Edge Online, which I've never heard of, in August 23rd, 2008. But it's an interview with Gucci, and I didn't realize this, but apparently there's like a big thing about being a salaryman, is what it's called in Japan. And you kind of pick a company and you stick with it your whole life.
Yeah, there's a big culture of loyalty, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, and so Iguchi essentially graduates college at Japan Electronics College and has to decide where to go. And he actually spent a lot of his time, he actually says in the interview, it's like, I spent most of my time either in class or in the arcade playing strictly arcade games. So when one of his friends recommended he worked at Nintendo, he's like, the trading card company? They make video games? Because this is right around the time that the Famicom was coming out. No one knew that it was about to blow up and become like home console gaming was going to be the next thing that takes over the entire medium of video games.
Yeah, I forgot. It's hard to, I always forget that Nintendo was a card company. They made card games for like 100 years before they ever made the NES.
Yeah. They were
literally 100 years.
There's I think we talked about it in our original series of like history video games, but I kind of think we should do a deep dive into Nintendo. Because their origins
the
are pretty interesting.
Pre-video game would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I don't know how much is there, so obviously we'll look into it, but I think it would be pretty neat to do, even if it was a quick episode on it. So, but Iguchi, so essentially he decided to go with Nintendo and work for Nintendo, and he actually says in the interview the first game he worked on was a Formula One racing game that only came out in Japan, and he even says it's not worth talking about. It's not very important.
Game's not good.
Yeah, so, but his greatest game, what he's known for, which is Animal Crossing, the entire game is inspired by him moving away from his hometown of Chiba, Japan, to the Nintendo headquarters in Kyoto, and that experience of like meeting new people and moving to a new place. So here's actually his quote describing Animal Crossing. He says, quote, "Animal Crossing features three themes: family, friendship, and community. But the reason I wanted to investigate them was a result of being so lonely when I arrived in Kyoto. Chiba is east of Tokyo and quite a distance from Kyoto, and when I moved there, I left my family and friends behind. In doing so, I realized that being close to them, being able to spend time with them, talk to them, play with them, was such a great, important thing. I wondered for a long time if there would be a way to recreate that feeling, and that was the impetus behind the original Animal Crossing."
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, right? It's heartfelt. And this game, I feel like, this is a game that a lot of people that don't play video games get really into. And I think it's because it's so cute and heartfelt, and it's just so nice.
Yeah, it's so different from other kinds of games in that like people have in their head like of what video games are, and they're like, nah, whatever that is, that's fine, but it's not for me. But Animal Crossing is so just not that it like really draws other people in.
Yeah, and so the original Animal Crossing, by the way, I didn't know this. It was actually released in Japan first for the Nintendo 64 DD. That's their disk drive system. And that came out on April 14th, 2001. The 64 DD system was actually chosen for this because it was the first console Nintendo had that had a real-time clock inside and that could use a memory card. And you need those two things because the entire point of Animal Crossing is it plays in real time.
Oh,
like
yeah. I guess if
real life is
if
a
they'd
day
done
in
it on
Animal
a
Crossing.
cartridge, they'd had to do it like Pokemon Gold and Silver, where they'd like have to put a clock in the cartridge and a battery and all that stuff.
Exactly. And so they didn't want to do that. So the system was on the Nintendo 64 DD, and then, as we all know, because that was released in Japan, it became a port on the GameCube in December of 2001. It actually was released in Japan under the name, and this is once another episode of Mike Butcher's Japanese, Debutsu no Mori is what it was called. And it came out on December 14th, 2001, and 8 months, if you were counting, after the original game came out. The version did have extra features like that were left out of the Nintendo 64 version. So it had that passing time effects between the games. It actually also had just more stuff added. We're going to get into it later, but there was this thing with the old... I didn't know this. The old Animal Crossing had a Nintendo emulator in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the 64 version did not have a lot of games for that. They added way more games for the GameCube version, which is pretty cool, if you ask me. Because it's like a game within a game. Ooh.
Yeah. What I love about like the N64 version of Animal Crossing had to be very small. I think it was called Animal Forest on the N64, and it had to be very small, obviously, to fit on a cartridge. So when they put it on a GameCube disc, like the game is very, very small. And in fact, the entire game, minus those NES games you were talking about, the entire game fits into the GameCube's memory. So once you've loaded the game up and you see the title screen on GameCube, you can hit the eject button. And I don't know if the system gets mad that you opened it, but like if you don't need the disc to play the game after it's loaded up, which is interesting.
That is kind of cool. I like that.
Except for those NES games, those are still on the disc. So if you go to play an NES game, it's gonna get mad at you.
Got to do that. Can't cheat that.
That's right.
So when Nintendo actually decided to localize the game for release in North America and change the name to Animal Crossing was the translation they chose, there actually was a giant translation project that happened. And this actually was them just translating the text from the Japanese version to the American version. But not only did they like translate all the thousands of lines of text that were in the original Japanese version, but they had to create new holidays and essentially like localize the game itself for the American market.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That makes total sense. Like I bet 4th of July is maybe a holiday in the American version of the game that like people in Japan wouldn't care about, right?
Yeah, and this was actually done by, it's called Nintendo of America's Treehouse Division is what it's called. It was called. I don't know if that still exists. But Nate Bildorf and Rich Amtower were the ones that kind of took the lead on creating the new holidays and the new items to be related outside of Japan. And they loved it so much at Nintendo main company in Japan that they decided to make it added on to the Animal Crossing Japanese version, which was called Debutsu no Mori E+, which was the added version with all of the extra stuff that was added. So they translated it originally from Japanese to English, added a bunch of stuff in English, and then translated that to Japan and to Japanese to put it in the Japanese version. So I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a lot of like a team project. So yeah, the game, if you don't know, is played in real time. So days, weeks, and months and years are timed in the game. And each day there is something always new on the island. So I've been playing a lot of the New Horizons version. There's stuff going on every day, different people visiting, different animals coming in. It's really neat. There's different events for the like holidays, for like Thanksgiving or Halloween or Independence Day, all that stuff. There's also like fishing tournaments and bug catching contests, all sorts of stuff. So the key is with this old game, and this is where you, I think, are going to know a lot more about it than I, because you mentioned this to me before. When players stop playing, you need to go see, is it Gyroid? Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Gyroid.
Gyroid. He lives next to your house, and you can save your progress with him. And if the player turns off the game or resets the GameCube without saving, there is a mole named Mr. Rossetti. And he comes over to your house and he scolds you for resetting and not saving. He hates it. He hates that you're doing that. And every time the lecture gets longer and longer, right, Tyler?
Yeah, it gets pretty ridiculous. I'm sure there's a good YouTube video online somewhere you can find of Mr. Rossetti's lectures, and he just goes on and on and on about how how you're so wrong for not saving your game. How could you do this? You're just the worst. It's incredible.
Yeah, and so the basics of Animal Crossing, this first one, and this carries over to all the rest of the games. If you could say there was a big objective or a goal in the game, that goal is to pay off your house, and that includes all of the upgrades to it, because essentially you become an indentured servant of Tom Nook, who is he's a tanuki in the Japanese version of the game, and he's just a raccoon in the American version of the game. I did not realize that. I thought it was a tanuki both times, but he puts you into this like loan scheme where you have to pay off using bells you earned. And then once you pay it off, there's another section of your house to build, and it gets even bigger. And that's kind of the room, the whole system. And then your room is judged by an organization called the Happy Room Academy that gives you a score on your customizations and how you decorate your house. So that's kind of the game within the game. So he also, at the beginning of the game, you start with your first house and then a mortgage of 19,800 bells, which seems like so much in the beginning, but then you just start making so many bells, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can play the stock market.
If you figure out your money-making schemes.
Yeah,
planting
it's kind of
fruit.
Interesting.
Yep.
So the village in the original Animal Crossing contains 6 villagers, and more villagers move in, and there's a maximum of 15 villagers living there at the time. All villagers are animals, and each has a home that the player can visit, and there are many possible interactions between the player and the villagers. You can talk to them, trade items, like they could give you tasks to do, writing letters, and E+, you can actually buy medicine. If they get sick, you can help them out. You know, it can be nice. Yeah. So one cool thing I mentioned about Animal Crossing is you can actually collect up to 15 NES emulator games in the game. It's a game within a game. What? Gameception. You can get these as gifts from villagers. They're hidden on your island or like special giveaways from Nintendo's website, which probably don't apply anymore because this game came out in 2001. But still, the game actually had 7 game emulators on the original 64DD version, but the full list that you would get if you had the GameCube version is Balloon Fight, Baseball, Clu Clu Land D, Donkey Kong Jr., Donkey Kong Jr. Math, Donkey Kong 3, Excite Bike, Golf, Gamoku Narabe Renju, Mahjong, Pinball, Punch Out, Soccer, Tennis, and Wario's Woods. Nailed that list. Maybe that wasn't the first try we did that list. Who knows?
I wonder why they didn't put more popular NES games on there. Like, there's no Super Mario, there's no like Zelda.
Yeah, I think the most popular one is like Punch Out and Excite Bike are the ones that I heard of the most. But
here's my speculation on that and why they didn't include some of those more popular games is I think around this time they were selling games for the Game Boy Advance, like they were selling those NES Classic series where they were selling like Mario and Zelda and stuff. So they were selling those games for the Game Boy Advance. They probably didn't want to cannibalize their sales by putting those games into the GameCube version of Animal Crossing.
That's probably right. Just nailed it.
Sounds right. Off the top of my head. Could be wrong, but
boom. So the other thing that's cool about this game is multiplayer is really cool. So you can actually play 4 people in one single village. You can't all play at the same time, but you can play separately and then like share stuff with each other. And it actually requires additional memory card stays to do this, but it's not too much. It's 3 extra blocks of memory. You remember when memory was measured in blocks on those days? That's a great time. But you can still meet new villagers, shop at stores, drop items. You can do everything you can if you were playing single player, but now you're sharing the town with a bunch of friends, and so like you can leave stuff in the game for each other, which is pretty cool. The original Animal Crossing had an 87 out of 100 on Metacritic out of 42 reviews. Really good. It sold really well, too. It sold 2 million copies worldwide, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this was in 2001. So I think that's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good, yeah.
So I am now going to go through the other Animal Crossing games, but I'm really just going to be focusing on new features because of something I'm going to tell you about these games. They're very much mostly the same. They don't change very much. Okay?
But they're all great.
They are all great. Everyone loves them. The next one was Animal Crossing Wild World was released in December 2005. So I think it came out in Japan in November, and then December 2005 when it came out for the rest of the world, essentially. But Wild World was on DS, which means it used the dual screens. So the top screen was like your usual view above your character, whereas the bottom screen was used for your inventory. You could write messages, draw designs for clothes, control the player character, whatever you wanted to do. It was in that bottom screen. Unlike the previous iteration, which had a top-down perspective, Wild World allowed both the ground and the sky to be visible at the same time, which would stick in the later games, so you could see things happening above you in the night sky, which you could view events, because there are things that would happen in the night sky. This is done, by the way, with an effect called rolling log, where the terrain seems to like bend and roll beneath your feet. I think a good example of this is like Super Mario Galaxy when you're on the planets, right? It's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar effect. I remember that because that I played the GameCube one, and then I very briefly played the DS one, and that's about the extent of my Animal Crossing experience. But yeah, it definitely feels like you're standing on a log as you run like down or up. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the Wild World was actually the first game in the Animal Crossing series that had online play. You would use the Wi-Fi connection, the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, and other players could visit your villages, or you could visit other villages, and you had to use friend codes, which, as we've talked about before, was the worst system. Still is.
They still do something like that,
if you asked me. Yeah, it's weird. But up to 4 players can explore the same village simultaneously. Ooh. And you can exchange items and like work together and stuff and get some exclusive gifts from Nintendo while you're at it. Now, there were actually some issues at launch with this. So I'm going to read these. These were the 2 big juicy pieces of gossip I found about Animal Crossing Wild World. Here we go. So on January 26, 2006, a blank letter was sent to a number of players connected to Nintendo Wi-Fi connection that contained a glitch item called Red Tulips that was able to corrupt saved game data. If placed on the floor inside the player's house, the item would create an invisible and indelible wall that rendered the spot in which it was in useless. You just couldn't do anything. Nintendo issued an official statement regarding the glitch, telling players that the bug was not caused by a hacker, but was due to an internal error with the upload tool used to send exclusive gifts to players, and recommended that users who received the letter delete it whenever possible. I don't know if that really fixes the problem, though.
Can you imagine being the person that like pushed that change? They're like, oh, here's how you send a letter to every single person playing Animal Crossing on their DS, and they were like, oh, cool, I have this great idea. You're like Nintendo employee, like typing it in, doing the thing, and then they hit send, and it's just like, you broke everybody's Animal Crossing game. Everybody's Animal Crossing game is broken now.
You ruined their Animal Crossing world.
That would be, I don't know if I could handle that. I'd have to quit. I'd just resign in shame.
All right, so this next one is also something I can't say a certain word in here, but here we go. In 2008, journalists were sent copies of Animal Crossing. This is actually for city folk. That's interesting. I have this in the wrong spot. So, but I'm going to tell you it anyway, and we'll just remember this is for the next game that we're going to do. I just had a little copy-paste error here. I got excited by this hot gossip, okay? So, for city folk, they were sent copies of Wild World. Oh, no, so this is actually for both. It pertains to both of them. Sorry about that. And it contained an existing save data to demonstrate the game's ability to transfer players' inventory from Wild World to City Folk, because that's a big feature.
Oh, okay.
And it was reported one of the animal characters in the modified copies of Wild World had a customizable catchphrase set to a very bad word that is racist, and I'm not going to say on this podcast. The edited slur had not been caught by the game's profanity detection system, which prevents players from setting like character dialogue to anything deemed distasteful. And Nintendo issued an official apology and recalled the modified copies, stating that the incident was caused by a wireless function that automatically transfers catchphrases between games. So at least
so somebody had that catchphrase in their game.
Yeah, for sure. Animal Crossing Wild World received positive reviews. It actually gained an aggregate score of 86 out of 100 on Metacritic. And as of March 31st, 2016, Wild World has sold 11.75 million copies worldwide.
6 times as many copies as GameCube version. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like portable games had, like, especially the DS had like a spotlight period, you know, where it was selling a lot and moving a lot.
Definitely.
And that time. So Animal Crossing City Folk, the next game, known in Europe and Oceania as Animal Crossing Let's Go to the City, that's what it was called for Europe and Oceania region, was released in December 2008. And Animal Crossing City Folk is the first Wii game to use Wii Speak.
Ooh. What's Wii Speak?
It's a new microphone option for the Wii that enables voice communication over the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. So with Wii Speak, all people in a room can communicate with those in another room also containing the device. So it's just like a way to do online chat, essentially. You could also do live text chat with a USB keyboard if you wanted to, or you could communicate with other players by sending messages just to their town, or Wii message board, mobile phone, or personal computer. If you didn't want to do it like live in the game, you could do it that way. There was an auction house run by Lloyd, who was a gyroid, and it's available in the city, and it's where players can auction items to other players via Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. There's also an office for the Happy Room Academy run by Lyle, where players can see how other players' towns are progressing. So they really were embracing the online-ness of Animal Crossing.
It's very progressive of Nintendo. They didn't do that usually.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it's going to be most of the new changes I have listed down for these Animal Crossing games are them adding new online features, because that's essentially how you make this game new again, is to make it so more and more people can access it. I will say this much, if you want to just play City Folk online, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but as of May 2014, the Wi-Fi connection has been terminated, and you have to like homebrew it to get it online, which if you wanted to go for it, hey, go for it. That's what I say.
I say that too.
You could also use Nintendo DS connectivity. So if you didn't want to create a new character, you could import your character from Wild World, but only the character's face, like hair, catalog, which is the items principal Tom Nook, are imported. Like all your bells and stuff. You don't get to start with like extra bells or anything like that. You can't cheat. Don't try to cheat your way. Tom Nook sees you. He sees everything. So, yeah, that's a pretty cool thing you could do. They also had a thing called Wii Connect 24, where Nintendo periodically sent downloadable content, which is actually something they do in the games now, where they send you new stuff, which is cool, just for free, just for owning the game. And these ranged from items to celebrate like particular holidays or to commemorate the release of new games. So the first item released was the red Pikmin hat for Pikmin. But they also did like the Girls' Day Updo and Top, or the St. Patrick's Day hat, like just pretty much like holiday stuff. They give you a bag of bells for tax day. I do like that Animal Crossing helps you. Like it is a game you kind of want to keep checking into because it changes constantly and there's always new stuff going on. Yeah. So there's also items that you can also get these items from Nook's catalog if you downloaded them when they were available. So like say you missed, like you got the item on St. Patrick's Day, you downloaded it, but you just forgot to grab it in the game. That means it's still in Nook's catalog. So nice. You can just grab it that way, which is nice. So Animal Crossing City Folk, Metacritic score, 73 out of 100. Not bad, 50 reviews. And as of May 2009, it sold 3.38 million copies. I think what's interesting is we see a pattern here where the portable copies of Animal Crossing sell way more than the console copies.
Yeah, which will be interesting to see how it shakes out in the end for New Horizons end being both a console and handheld. I think it's going to have sold really well, especially quarantine time.
Oh, definitely. I think so. I mean, that's kind of the big thing about it is that, man, oh man, everything came out in quarantine just in the right time.
That is the perfect time, for that game.
So the final game we're going to talk about today is Animal Crossing New Leaf. And this was released in Japan on November 8th, 2012, and the rest of the world in June 2013. That's right, the next year. So long. But Animal Crossing New Leaf introduces a lot of new features. So players start the game, instead of having a house right away, you live in a tent, and then you eventually have to upgrade the tent to a house. They do the same thing in New Horizons. This is where it started. They added a lot of customization stuff for your character's appearance and to decorate your house. Now your pants can be modified in addition to just your shirt, your shoes, your hat, and accessory. And then you could also hang furniture on walls. That was the first time you could put stuff on walls. Features found in only the Japanese versions of the games, like benches and lampposts, those came back to the series again. You could swim in the ocean if you got a swimsuit, which you had to get as an item. You could visit each other's towns using the Nintendo Network, and that can be added to a friends list that allows you to exchange messages with one another. So it's kind of getting a little bit closer to the modern age as far as like messaging goes. Also, there's a cool new place called Tortimer Island, which, fun fact, appears in a Smash Brothers game after this. And that is a place you can go play mini games with your friends. So there's like a little social area. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty neat. You can also take snapshots in this game on your 3DS, and you can share those to Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, because who doesn't want to go on Tumblr and let everyone know what your Animal Crossing town's doing? The new big piece of the new Leaf game, though, is they had this mayor system where you can become the mayor of the town. And this is kind of what you do stuff, and you work with when you become mayor, you get 2 new cool features to the game. You get public works projects and ordinances. So public works projects, they let you build things like bridges and fountains and light poles. Like you're essentially become like the city operations manager, like your urban planning, everything. But ordinances give you the ability to customize the way your town functions. Like you can pass laws and you could help make the town more wealthy. You can encourage citizens to plant more flowers or make the shops open earlier or later. Like you can, so like the way I look at it is like public works is like building, and ordinances is like maintaining the town's like schedule essentially. So I think it's pretty cool. New Leaf also makes various uses of the Nintendo 3DS features. So there's a Dream Suite, which lets you download dream versions of other people's towns to explore freely, which is kind of cool. In 3D.
That's cool.
Ooh.
Neato.
So the Happy Home Showcase allows players to view the homes of other players. So this they did with Street Pass. Remember Street Pass? On the
I do
3DS?
remember Street Pass.
So this was them implementing that. So you could just like check out people's homes as you walk by them on the street. Pretty cool. A sewing machine in the Able Sisters shop allowed players to create QR codes of your designs, and then you could upload them to other people's DSs using the 3DS camera. So like you design a QR code for a design you made of like a shirt or whatever. You put the QR code on your screen, your friend would scan it with their camera on their 3DS, and then they'd have that design.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they also do this thing called play coins as another currency, and you could use these to buy fortune cookies, which in turn can be exchanged for special prizes, like rare items or like items based on other Nintendo franchises. We'll get that Link outfit you always wanted. But the big thing about New Leaf 2 is they made a whole new version of it called Animal Crossing New Leaf Welcome Amiibo, and that put amiibos into the game. And our amiibos are still kind of a thing, right?
I think so.
If that's the case, I was like, should we do a history on amiibos? I don't know. Like we're kind of
They're
not
still
there.
kind of new. I think they're a little too new to do a history on.
Yeah, because this was released in 2016, so that's kind of new. November 2nd, 2016, to be precise. They had so when you do this, you can like summon villagers and vendors to a new campsite area when you use an amiibo. And you also can like do save data integration with Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer and all sorts of other stuff, which is pretty neat. New Leaf actually has a really high Metacritic score, 88 out of 100. It's done, I think that's the best out of all of them, 88 out of 100. And by March 2020, all versions combined, worldwide sales, 12.55 million copies. So I think our theory is true, where if you actually put this on portable, it's just way more popular than console. But I think we're going to have that broken when it comes to New Horizons.
Yeah.
For sure.
What's your prediction for total copies sold for New Horizons? If we check back in 6 years.
Oh, man. 6 years?
Yeah, check back when we would be doing when we would be doing that episode of this show, so we're talking a while.
Now, I think it could break 50 million copies.
50? Dang. I was going to say 20, but I was going to say 20, but I don't really know what I'm talking about either.
I don't know. I feel like the big games we talk about on here sell 100,000 is too much. I think you're right. I'm going to re-edit. I'm still going to go higher than you. I'm going to say 30 million.
Okay.
But yeah, 50 is too high. 30 million.
Okay.
Watch. It's 51 million copies, and I curse myself on this podcast. Speaking of cursing, apologies last episode if I said a swear word that I didn't notice. I found that out from a tweet, but hey, you know what? Am I going to edit it? Absolutely not. Can you go back and find it? If you really want to, you can. It's a scavenger hunt now that you can do. But that's all we have for the history today. So what you been playing, Tyler?
Well, this weekend, I put in about 10 hours into Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I got to the last boss. I'm on Sephiroth. Oh, spoilers. He's the last boss of the
Spoilers.
of the Final Fantasy VII remake, and it's very difficult. And it's one of the game has been up to this point very respectful of your time. Like when you lose a battle, you go back to the beginning of the battle. It's fine. Maybe you want to change up your characters and how their equipment's laid out or whatever. That's fine. It's not a huge deal. But in this fight, the fight itself is so long that I end up losing 10 or 15 minutes every time I fail, and it's really starting to get on my nerves a bit. And there's no place for me to go back to grind. I have passed that point. So I'm not sure what to do now because it's so difficult that I don't want to keep trying. But it's also the last boss, so I'm stuck. So I had to take a break from it today because I'm very frustrated by it.
Dude, that happens. So I started playing some games. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you done? I don't want to cut you off. I'm so
I
sorry.
think that's about it. I put a lot of time into that game this weekend. So yeah,
I've only put 30 minutes into it, which is not very long because I had some stuff to do. But I downloaded The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and I'm going to start playing that. Okay.
On what are you playing that on?
On Xbox One. It's on Game Pass, so it's might as well just play it for free. I'm not going to buy it. So
yeah, but it is on Switch, so you could be playing the Switcher.
I could be playing the Switcher. That's very true. I do like that name more too, the Switcher. I also have been playing a lot more Apex than usual. I actually hit an Apex milestone where I made my money back on the Battle Pass.
Oh.
Because you know how they give you the currency back, and if you play enough, you can make your money. I made my money back.
Wow.
So,
I think Fortnite does that too, or they at least did for a while.
Yeah, which I think is pretty neat. So I've been playing a lot of that. And then playing some Animal Crossing New Horizons, always. I bought so many turnips this week. I bought 130,000 bells worth of turnips this week. So
really
I'm really
putting
putting my money on the stock market. Yeah. I want to just make a ton of money and then be like, okay, I'll just pay off all this stuff and then I'm done until the next stock market. You know what I mean? I want to be a financer guy, Big stocks, doing it up.
That's the dream.
We do have a review and an email, so I was going to read the review first. That's all right with you. It's on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for the review. This is from Arcturus347. Enjoyable and entertaining, 5 stars. I love this lighthearted and educational approach to the video game history. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Arcturus347. Appreciate it. That always helps us out. If you'd like to leave a review on wherever you listen, that would be fantastic. We also have an email from Steve. Would you like me to read the email from Steve, or would you like to read the email from Steve?
Please read the email from Steve.
Steve says, hey guys, I love the commentary you put out for Doom. It was really helpful and a fun way to start my recent layoff from work. Just a quick thing though, I had a little trouble syncing up because I actually watched the unrated version instead of the regular version. Yeah, so we watched the unrated version. He watched the regular version. We fixed that, just so you know. We tell you at least that it's on the unrated version now. Thank you for letting us know, though, Steve. You helped us out because we did that because you said it. And he said, just want to let you know in case you missed it. But then he also said, after hearing you react to the first-person segment of the movie, I would love to know your opinions on the movie Hardcore Henry, which is an action movie shot entirely in the first person with a silent protagonist. Stay safe. Hope you guys are doing well during this crazy time, Steve. Thank you, Steve. And I need to watch that movie, I think.
Yeah, I remember when that movie came out. I think they sold it on Steam. It was one of the first movies you could buy on Steam, which, side note, did you know you can buy movies on Steam? Isn't that weird?
Not until just now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one of that was the gimmick, was that it was you buy this movie on Steam because it's so much like a video game, and then I guess they ended up selling more movies on Steam. But
they also have just straight up software on Steam. I forget that, just software design studio stuff and things like that.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can't buy movies on Steam. Do they do that only for a short amount of time, or
maybe it was a short promo thing for Hardcore Henry? I believe you. Maybe. I don't think you're a liar. Well,
I could be misremembering. It wouldn't be the first time that happened.
But yeah, that's it for today's episode. I don't know what we're doing next week. We got to figure that out. Ooh, exciting. Yeah. But that's it for today. As always, you can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you want. You can email us, codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @mecoletta. Tyler's @sneakerelf, ELPH. Thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends. We hope you're staying safe and well. And Tyler, do you want to say bye to everybody?
Yes, but before I do, I just Googled it, and yes, you can buy movies on Steam. The number 1 movie on Steam right now is called Indie Game, the movie, which is a movie I have yet to watch. Number 2 is Saw. So there you go. Wide variety of movies.
Wide variety.
Available on
Thank
Steam.
you. Now you know. Now you know, too.
All right.
That's good.
Anyway, Goodbye, everybody.